Go ahead, Tone. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir. Start with you.
Hi, my name is Tom Vase. I come from the traditional Wall Street environment where I was about 10 years. And then around 2013, I realized the value of Bitcoin being the first unconfiscatable asset in human history. I heard about it as far back as 2011 with WikiLeaks. Not so much on Silk Road, mostly WikiLeaks, but then in 2013 with Cyprus Bank confiscation of the money, that really resonated. And since then, run a YouTube channel, organize events, and try to educate about Bitcoin and why it's so important.
Is the YouTube channel still live, or is it whacked like a lot of YouTube?
I'm still around. Surprisingly, I've been pushing the envelope. Mostly I'm talking too much about politics and about COVID. So eventually I'll be banned, but now there are alternatives popping up. But yeah, my Bitcoin YouTube channel was taken down by YouTube, but I got it back within 24 hours. It was that bad algorithm that they had, but it was all right.
I was part of the Save Tone, the Save Tone movement, guaranteed.
Introduce yourself, Scott.
Yeah, of course. My name is Scott Walker. I'm here on behalf of shitcoiners worldwide. All shitcoiners unite in the power of shitcoinery.
This is actually not true, by the way.
I am it's very interesting, actually, because I am a recovering Bitcoin maximalist. I started my crypto career, my entire path was because of a mining operation that a couple partners and I began together in like mid 2012. I spent a long time mining Bitcoin. I ended up building an operation in central Washington to continue to mine Bitcoin with a different partner. And so it was for many years only about Bitcoin for me. And I learned some very, very valuable lessons along the way, of which Tone and I will discuss.
Let's get it started. Tone, tell me what it is, man. Why is Bitcoin everything and all coins are shit coins? Tell me right now, sir. Just that quick.
See?
Being censored already. All right. So, look, to me, this movement of altcoins, NFTs, ICOs, I mean, we can name these acronyms on and on and on. And they're making a lot of people wealthy. And, I mean, that's great. I'm not against people getting wealthy. But I don't see anything innovative there other than getting around regulation. Now, regulation is always great. No one really likes the SEC or other regulators. But I don't see anything decentralized or anything innovative, no matter how much your favorite altcoin projects tries to convince you that they're decentralized, that they have some kind of innovation. I haven't actually seen any, literally zero. I do believe that NFTs are just JPEGs that you are able to save on a computer. You can have a master Excel spreadsheet that only a few people have admin rights to, and it will have the same exact validation. Most of these NFTs are just saved in someone's server. So if they forget to pay their ISP bill, the record of it will probably be gone. I believe that regulators can take down any altcoin other than Bitcoin if they really cared and really wanted to. Most of them die on their own the moment their leaders or their centralized backers decide to leave and cash out. I see the world of altcoins as going back to the traditional world of pre-Bitcoin, only with different people getting rich. That could be good. I mean, it's better to move the power to, us than them. That's a good side of it. But as far as a world where every single person has their own currency, every single company has their own currency, prior to Bitcoin, the world had, 100 and maybe about 110 different currencies around the world. Now we have 10,000. In 3 years, we're going to have, 1 million different currencies and tokens and utility tokens. Imagine if every company asked you to hold their speculative asset. What if Amazon's stock was a utility token? Now you have to buy every product on Amazon with Amazon stock. turning every single user of Amazon into a speculator of Amazon, the company, trying to promote the company in order to speculate on the currency of Amazon. In order to get Amazon stock, you have to go to a broker like E-Trade. How do you get on a broker like E-Trade? Well, you have to use E-Trade stock in order to buy Amazon stock, in order to buy on Amazon. It's just this ridiculous cycle of tokens with speculative value. And one of the reasons why Bitcoin hasn't really taken off is because everyone is trying to promote their own altcoin. But Bitcoin will survive through it, and eventually all of these assets and tokens will be built on top of Bitcoin because it's the only one that is resistant.
Okay. There's so much about what you talk about that I agree with. And there's so much of what you just went into today that I don't understand at all. The path that you're going down is kind of nonsensical. So let me start with the first question. I want to back it up just a bit. And I want to make sure we're clear on this. So your position is the only way to truly decentralize an asset is via proof of work mining.
100%.
Okay. Thank you for that. So what I would like to do is propose there's an alternative type called proof of stake. And I'm going to take the position that proof of stake can be decentralized and can literally do the same type of decentralization process that proof of work does. Tell me why you feel that that's not accurate.
Proof of stake has always existed. Proof of stake is not innovative or new. Even pre-digital age, proof of stake is what ruled the world. It still does. Whoever has the most money, whoever has the most value is in charge. That's literally what proof of stake is. Proof of stake gives power to those that have the most of that asset, the most of that token, or it's selective to a small number of people. That's what Dan Larimer kind of popularized. It was delegated proof of stake.
I did not say delegated proof of stake.
Well, I know. I'm just saying there are multiple types of proof of stake. There's a lot of different ones. Every time one of them starts to be laughed at, someone else comes up with another one, another concept. Proof of stake is free. This is the difference with proof of work. Like, this whole thing started because Satoshi created proof of work. Like, proof of work is literally what got us here. And these other projects have realized they can never compete on proof of work with Bitcoin. So they're moving to proof of stake. Ethereum is doing it right now. Ethereum is trying to move to proof of stake because they know they can't compete with Bitcoin for proof of work. And it's an environment where it is incredibly cheap, virtually free to validate transactions. But all of the cost is in like basically showing that that validation was accurate. Bitcoin proof of work reverses that. All of the cost is in finding the block. And then it's incredibly cheap or free to prove that the block was accurate, that the work was done. That's free. Proof of stake reverses that mechanism. And I don't see how it's sustainable, but until, one of these, eventually it will be proven that it's not decentralized.
Okay. I'll start with a side point. Do you believe that Satoshi created proof of work?
Satoshi launched proof of work, and he referenced many other attempts at it. There was a whole reference section. I'm not technical enough to explain that technical side, the computer science side, as to why proof of work is not sustainable. But there are many research papers that were written as far back as 2014, 2015 explaining this. That are still valid today by very smart computer scientists that I respect. Satoshi did create proof of work in a way by relying on very close attempts to it.
Okay, he didn't. Proof of work has been around for 20 years before Satoshi ever proposed the Bitcoin white paper and launched the Bitcoin network. So proof of work, and now I do believe that there is a value in a single proof of work network. I think the idea of having hundreds of proof of work network is ridiculous. And so the idea of a Litecoin, the idea of these different ridiculous forks of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Silver, Bitcoin Blue, Bitcoin Black, Bitcoin Private, whatever these other ones are, I agree. I think it's an absolute joke. However, I'll argue that proof of stake can be decentralized, and based upon that fact that proof of stake can be decentralized, the idea of building the entire world's economy on top of a single proof of work network that is not scalable. Now, I know you'll argue, layer two. The size of the layer 2 network that you would have to build on top of Bitcoin to simply create what Ethereum is, for all intents and purposes, already delivering would be absolutely astronomical. It would never work. If the world was built just on Bitcoin, the idea, and I get it, you can make an argument for NFTs. NFTs currently they're a toy. They're cool. There's something fun. There's something interesting. Who knows where that goes? I think that there is potentially a massive future in NFTs. It's not necessarily only going to be artwork. It's going to be, unique, once and one-time only events that you'll be able to own. And so there's definitely ways that NFTs will change the world, but it's a small fraction of what we're actually discussing. If there was only Bitcoin, what do you have to say about stablecoins? If there was only Bitcoin, what do you have to say about exchanges, specifically decentralized exchanges? Thank God there's not only Bitcoin, because without Ethereum and the decentralized exchanges built on top of Ethereum, the entire industry would be 1/1000th of what we see today. Bitcoin is an amazing at what it does, providing value from point to point. The long-term value of Bitcoin, in my opinion, is probably between $50 and $100 trillion. However, that says nothing about smart contract platforms, which would be a terrible thing to run on a proof of work network. You simply can't handle the transactional volume. So now you have Bitcoin, proof of work, basically delivering value from point to point. Then you have smart contract platforms. Then you have stablecoin, and there's going to be a lot of different stablecoins. And then you also have DeFi. And this entire DeFi, let's just call it kind of launched in DeFi summer when Hayden, created automated market makers. You're a trader. You kind of recognize market makers and how market makers apply. It would be ridiculous to try and run automated market makers on top of the Bitcoin network. It needs to be on a more scalable, faster, broader base layer. And if all you have is a single base layer with a few transactions per second, the whole system comes crashing down.
You want to say something, or can I go?
Yeah, it sounds
because that was a lot.
That sounds a lot on both sides. But ultimately, I want to give you guys something a little bit different, especially you, Mr. Bays. Ultimately, the argument about there being, Bitcoin and everything else, right, is exactly from what Scott's just mentioned, the smart contract application. Do you see any value in smart contracts and what, say, for instance, Ethereum has done?
Well, those are two different things, right? Do I see value in smart contracts? Of course, I always saw value in smart contracts. I don't really drink soda anymore, but when I was a kid, I used to love the smart contracts of a soda machine, right? You stick $1 in, and it's a smart contract that throws the soda out. Saying the word smart contract has absolutely nothing to do with decentralization. What Ethereum tried to convince the world is that for some God knows what reason, this smart contract of a soda machine needs to use ridiculous amount of energy and process and store it in the database forever and ever and ever. Smart contracts and decentralized smart contracts are two completely different concepts. The only reason to decentralize your smart contract is to avoid censorship. If your smart contract has a physical world interaction, censorship is unavoidable. Putting real estate on a decentralized smart contract layer is ridiculous, right? Because someone can confiscate your real estate. Someone can take it away. It's just pure nonsense. Like, you don't own your real estate. The government owns your real estate. They just let you hold on to it for a little while. So that aspect is there. Like, very few contracts actually need decentralization. Now, Uber doesn't need a decentralized contract unless it's in an area where Uber is illegal. Then suddenly you need a decentralized Uber because the contract is illicit and you need to avoid censorship of that contract. Going back to scaling on a single layer, I mean, we have the internet, right? We only have one internet, and everything had to scale off of that internet. I don't know if this is live streamed or not, but if it was, you couldn't do this in 1998. You couldn't live stream. The internet couldn't handle that, right? But you had to build on top of one internet. Having 100 different internets and having 100 different of your own website on 100 different internets is a ridiculous world. That's why people were kind of smart enough to build on one internet, because there wasn't this token, this speculative component of internet. So everyone had to innovate on top of one layer. Ethereum, talking about projects that aren't scalable, Ethereum is not scalable. And so far, the only use case I've ever seen for Ethereum is being a platform to launch tokens. That's it. There is no actual decentralized exchange on top of Ethereum. They needed Ethereum in order to launch their token because the Bitcoin Core developers didn't want all that nonsense clogging up on chain. Because the reason why Bitcoin only has 7 transactions a second, more like 15 now with the added advantages of SegWit and Taproot, that is a 4x scaling solution. So you do have more transactions now, still not great. Maybe you can get up to 20, maybe you can get up to 25 transactions a second. But that is absolutely necessary to preserve decentralization. The base layer must stay decentralized. The size of that layer has to be small so anyone can run a node. Running a node is absolutely critical for that decentralization aspect. Side chains like Liquid, you can build your tokens on top of Liquid. The decentralized exchange BISC doesn't utilize Ethereum at all, to my knowledge. I could be corrected on that. I haven't really looked much into it because a lot of people don't want to use a decentralized exchange. Like, no one wants to get into a decentralized Uber that's self-driving on a decentralized code where no one's responsible if that decentralized version of Uber drives off a cliff. We are a long way away from a world running on a decentralized system. And atomic swaps are automatically executed code. And I'm a trader. And even I debate, I'm sorry, trading is not a use case of anything. You know, like, just because your token can be traded doesn't mean that there is a reason for that token to exist. That is, I mean, it's a great profession for 12 and 13-year-olds that don't need to KYC anywhere and can potentially make money if they're good traders. But this is not a use case of anything. Like, I'm not a fan of the SEC either, but like the regulations on what is a security with the Howey test that came in the 60s is not bad. I'm not against that regulation per se.
It's a good thing you're not the regulator, sir. Those are antiquated laws that were written in 1972. They have no business applying to 2021 technology.
They actually do, because it's not technology specific. They have to do with money. They have to do with taking money from another person, putting it into a common enterprise where someone is doing something to make something better for those that invested are making money. It has nothing, it's technology agnostic.
Excellent. Mr. Walker, response.
I don't think there's a specific response to that. So I'll
Tone, you have to learn. Just because you talk the most don't mean you're going to win. Okay?
Yeah. So
honestly. You has the most words doesn't mean he wins. You got a valid argument here, sir. Go ahead.
So specific. So again, specific to, and I'm going to say that the idea that the entire world's financial system comes down to layering on top of the Bitcoin blockchain is absurd. There will be dozens, hundreds, thousands of smart contract platforms. It is not winner take all. There is a purpose for proof of stake. And what you're beginning to see is proof of stake networks. I'm not going to say they're actually taking away from the Bitcoin value. Despite the fact that as a recovering Bitcoin maximalist, I loved this technology. I loved the white paper. I didn't understand the maths from the white paper at all, but I recognized the idea of decentralization. And, coincidentally, as an investor, I invested in my first proof of stake network in 2013, an early failure of mine.
Like they all will be.
Right. So I'll take it one step further. The different things in this ecosystem that we currently see, aside from Bitcoin, are viable and important pieces of this ecosystem we call crypto. Okay? And using smart contract technology, using smart contracts to create different use cases on different layers and different blockchains is just simply going to be happening in the future. Now, will there be companies launching their own? Who knows? I guess there might be examples of that, but using the example of Amazon launching a token to do this, it's just nonsensical. Amazon does what Amazon does. There's a reason that you don't buy an Amazon token to purchase something on Amazon. Having said that, there's also a reason why an exchange, let's take an example of a centralized exchange, Binance. I think we all recognize that there are use cases for centralized exchanges. Binance provides a token as an incentive mechanism to give people discounts on their trading fees. You're a trader, you've probably used Binance before. How is that a shitcoin? I'm actually using a token to get a discount on my trading fees. It's the same as using frequent flyer miles on Delta.
No, it's not.
Explain, give me the difference.
Amazon has two tokens. Amazon has the Amazon
Forget
stock.
Amazon.
No,
Let's stick with Binance for a moment.
Amazon has two tokens. They have an Amazon stock, which is equivalent to a token in the space, and they also have Amazon points, which is a token. Amazon points are pegged. They may not always be worth the same value, but they're pegged in a range. Airline miles are tokens. Delta has stock, and Delta has airline miles, which fluctuate in price a little bit. They can even probably be sold from one person to another, but they're generally pegged. Casinos have a token. You walk in and you exchange dollars.
Airline miles are not pegged, sir. They're not. You're wrong.
They're pegged. They're in a band, but they're worth a certain amount. They're not speculative. They're pegged.
I agree they're not speculative.
Airline miles, X number of miles will buy you X number of dollars worth of seed. It's pegged. It's not fluctuating. It's like a currency that's not pegged to the US dollar, but it has to be within a band, right? It's a concept of peg. The reason why Binance token does what he does, did what they do, is because they wanted to find a way to get around the security laws. So the latest way of getting around security laws is to come up with this, well, it's a utility token because you get to save money by holding our speculative stock. So basically, it's like combining Amazon stock and Amazon points. It's combining Delta Airline stock and Delta Airline miles into one. It has all of the speculation of a security without the buyer protection and the buyer rights to be a holder of a security of the asset, while at the same time providing a loyalty point via the discount fees, no different than a loyalty point. For using Amazon points, you may get a discount.
Fair.
And eventually, the regulators are going to catch up, or there could be a world where, let's say, the U.S. SEC loses the Ripple case, they have no funding, the U.S. collapses, the U.S. splits in two, and there's absolutely no securities regulator, and then I'll probably have a token, because then no one will be in violation of any security laws ever.
You heard it first. As soon as the regulators go away, Tone will be the shitcoin king.
I will say that of all the things that I expected to come from a debate today, securities law was not at the top of my list of expectations. So I tend to agree with Pedro that trying to create securities laws around crypto is crazy. And the way the SEC does it is basically not done by almost any other country in the world.
Well, also, quick thing. There's absolutely no reason for the Binance token to exist. There's zero, right? They were one of the first exchanges to create this necessary token. Meanwhile, we've had exchanges since Amsterdam in the 1500s, and somehow, for 400, 500 years, exchanges have been able to work without a utility token. But here comes Binance, and now every exchange has to compete because Binance just printed $1 billion for themselves, and they outcompeted their competition, and the competition has no choice. A lot of people blame the 08 financial crisis. I was working at Bear Stearns. Well, yeah, when one bank starts making ridiculous money by kind of fudging the laws a little bit, other banks either have to do the same or they're going to fail.
In closing,
Mr. Walker.
All right, in closing, keep it simple, stupid. There are other purposes for blockchains. There are other purposes beyond Bitcoin. The largest mistake I've ever made in my life financially was being a Bitcoin maximalist, taking almost my entire Ethereum crowd sale tokens and selling them at $1 worth of Bitcoin at the time. Because I was able to increase my Bitcoin holdings, it was the worst financial mistake of my life. Don't make the same mistake I did.
All right, in closing, again, this is what I said earlier, right? It's more than just about making money, right? To me, I'm actually trying to do, actually make the world function on an actual decentralized system.
Until the regulators disappear. When the regulators disappear, we're going all shit.
No, that was more of a joke, but no, there are, I do see it as more of a moral play. A little more of, yeah, of course. I mean, I'm sure, or Tony Montana's yeah, the greatest decision I ever made was to smuggle, illegal substances because I can make a lot of money. Again, those are financially motivated decisions for some. But all of these other platforms, one last thing, whether it's Ethereum, something else, they're not that critical. If Ethereum disappeared tomorrow, Vitalik just sent a tweet, I'm sorry for your loss, guys. We tried. We'll try again, next year with another platform. They're not important. They're not relevant. Anyone that was building on Ethereum will switch to Cardano, will switch to Solana, will switch to whatever comes out in 6 months. They're not that stable. They're not that important. You're going to switch to wherever you think is better. And that's not stability.
How many people here use DeFi? You use DeFi, put your hands together, give me a round of applause.
DeFi and name only. It's a name only. There's nothing, there's no D there.
There's no, excuse me, Mr. Bays.
Nothing decentralized there.
If you use DeFi, put your hands together for me. Show Mr. Tone Bays. Show me. Thank you, Tone. Let's get a round of applause for all of you guys, man.